Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome back to the showdown. It's going to be myself on Slaanesh with KARI, facing off against Nurgle, who's going to be helmed by Festus and Subutai with his elite core of Chosen. Certainly very excited to receive some of the blessings of Papa Nurgle. Now, as far as my build goes, it's a pretty big map. A big open type map, right? So opening up with skirmish cavalry against a very slow faction that doesn't really have a lot of agency to fight back against it, they don't have too much terrain to hide in, is going to be the right direction in my opinion. So it's going to be 4 Marauder Horsemen of Slaanesh. Granted, his army is pretty durable against it. The Marauders are shielded, and the great weapons have 120 armor, so the low armor piercing on these javelins isn't going to be great, but it's more of a screening tool and does also give you some utility capture weight. On top of that, we got KARI, who I actually think is very good against Nurgle. If they go with like a big character like Kugath, you just use the 100 speed to avoid Kugath and fight on whichever point Kugath isn't on. And if they go with like Festus, you just use KARI to hunt Festus the entire time, and it can work out pretty well. Couple Seekers up in the bushes. Seekers are great against Nurgle. They do huge damage against the Great Weapon Armored Troopers. They can take down Marauders quickly. They counter Plague Toads, but you don't want to leave them in sustained combat too long. They certainly can be dragged down, being very squishy. I feel like after the changes to Slaanesh, their faction identity just feels great. Like, it's high micro, fast paced. It's really rewarding. It's not like you're just spamming an overpowered unit, like what the Chaos Dwarfs do now. But anyway, Seekers of Slaanesh going to be 2 of those, and 1 unit of shielded Hellscourge warriors on the back objective. So the game plan is just, I see Festus, I know there's a Mortis engine, I don't want to fight it. I'm just going to bounce back and forth between his points and try and, make it a little bit harder for him to have the blob he wants. And that's really what most factions will do against Nurgle, right? Some factions can fight Nurgle's blob head on with like guns and powder, a little bit of firepower and magic, and, to nuke down those heavy-duty units. But Slaanesh, if you've ever played like land battle Slaanesh against Nurgle, it sucks really bad because Nurgle can just sit in a box and Slaanesh basically has to attack them and try and game them with magic and poke, and it's really not good. But in Domination, it's a bit of a different beast. So Marauder Horsemen, a little bit of Javelin play, going to be trying to poke into the Chosen. For a large portion of the game, I didn't realize those were Chosen. I was like, oh, he just brought some great weapons, but yeah, he's got triple Chosen here, and KARI's going to be moving in, claiming some souls for Slaanesh. Certainly hits very, very hard, and able to cleave through those units. Looks really cool doing it. Takes down 10 models, and we are going to be out of there. 100 speed on KARI, down to 85, and I do try and get a lash right there, but it wasn't that great. My angle was slightly off. Wanted to hit those Chosen of Nurgle there. Now, objective's going to be opening up in about 45 seconds. Another unit that's super good in this matchup are Exalted Demonettes. Exalted Demonettes will butcher many Nurgle units if they're unsupported by like Mortis engines and healing and things like that. So if you can force the battle to be more like isolated fights and not like a big focal fight, then you're going to be in good shape. So another Seeker going to come out. As a matter of fact, a Heart Seeker. So we bring out the Elite Cavalry. Again, very good against the armored units, but I found that even if you send like Heart Seekers into like a Great Weapon unit, they can still take a bit of damage. So there's going to be some Witchcraft, Miasma, and Pestilence going down from Nurgle, trying to lower the melee attack of KARI, but we're just going to run away and wait for those debuffs to wear off. Seekers move in the front, doing a little bit of shock damage against Marauders, but at the end of the day, I do take some damage as well, but it's okay. We're just trying to slowly pull apart this Nurgle army, as up on the high ground, I see, the main blob moving away from Objective 1, so I'm like, all right, let's go here and party. Seekers charge in the front. Heart Seekers going to go around the back. Chosen of Nurgle just have good enough stats and poison that they can definitely fight back against such a unit, but the devastating flanker coming in from the Heart Seekers is going to be nasty, nasty damage. And you immediately see those Chosen of Nurgle start to just wither and decay as they take so much damage from the decadent host here. On the other side, Horsemen just pulling back, kiting. We do see some Exalted Plague Bearers coming out to give Nurgle some range, so they are going to be throwing the Holy Hand Grenades. And KARI and some more Seekers did move into the front against the Marauders, and some of the Chosen moving up in Festus, but we don't want too much part of that, as now we start to see some mass coming out for Nurgle, which is a good call. Without Plague Toads, I really could get KARI and just go straight after your boy Festus, but there's a little bit of RNG with that. Sometimes, KARI will just chain miss. It's weird sometimes with those big monsters in Total War. You see that attack we miss. I do use Willing Prey, so his melee defense is 10. I also pop Witstealer's Sword. We miss another attack, so that's 2 misses in a row right there. And we're going to keep piling on and trying to make it happen. Really, really forcing the issue home, but like had those 2 attacks hit, he'd be down to like 70% right now. And, sometimes units push things. There's some weird interactions for sure in this game, but, the haggardness is why we love it. So here on the side, Seekers to Slaanesh moving into the Chosen, and they do get debuffed. Really nice play there by Subutai. That is going to be debuffing them and making it so the Chosen can endure their wrath. And we did fail pretty badly on our first attempt. We did end up hitting Festus at the very end of that fight. Nurgle does have the 2 objectives. We are up in value, but with healing being taken into account, we're actually not in the best shape right now. So I need to kind of go back to the drawing board, get some schemes going, and figure out some big plans. So knowing that the Nurgle blob is kind of far away from their back objective, I'm like, all right, let's roll for it. So we get the Seekers and the Heart Seekers, and we're going to be moving up and around and flanking, taking KARI with the 100 speed, and just trying to pull Nurgle further and further apart. But Subutai, of course, a veteran tournament player, is not going to fall for that easily here. As the cultists are now pulling back, we see the Beast of Nurgle summoned in, which isn't bad. it's a regenerating monster. Yeah, it can fight against my monsters, and I don't want to like sit there having to kill it, right? It would take some time. So now we're going to be doing the dual pushing, right? We have the horsemen, some cavalry down here. We're also pulling in the Chaos Warriors to push this bottom objective. Meanwhile, we get the Exalted Demonettes up in the high ground. Exalted Demonettes are just such lawnmowers. One of my favorite elite infantry units in the game. They hit super hard. They do have the Charmed ability, which lowers their opponent's melee attack. And now the cavalry charges are underway as Seekers move in from all directions to try and clear things. Here we do use the old Heart Seekers to take down the Chosen. And over the course of this game, I kept wondering why his like great weapon units were so hard to kill, but I didn't realize till like about now in the game that they were Chosen. But yeah, scary stuff here. So Marauder Horsemen and Slaanesh throwing their javelins into the Plague Bearers, and each of these guys is 4 capture weight, so you could unsummon them, but keeping them for capture weight shenanigans and, you know, rear charging isn't a terrible idea. And now Kari's going to be moving up to the high ground objective. We finally have gotten a little bit of an isolation up here where we can take in Kari and some of these elite infantry, these Exalted Demonettes, and cause some havoc. My opponent using Miasma. The reason why is to proc the army-wide healing, because casting the cheap spells does trigger the Gift of Nurgle, which is kind of like a map-wide heal. But we do see a gooning opportunity. And Kari's pissed off. They're getting back in there. Going to be hunting down your boy Festus, but we do see the Toads, and the Toads are able to kind of harry us off, and we don't want to get caught in a blob there. So Horsemen charging in, out of ammunition. That was not intentional, but, you know, you pay the Troll Soul sometimes. And here we get the Exalted Demonettes ready to butcher. Seeker is going to be going after Demon Spew. Demon Spew are pretty fighty, though. They have really, really high stats, but should take some decent shock damage. But the Exalted Demonettes are in their element. They are going to be butchering these mortals of the Plague God, certainly giving them the business. More and more are on their way in. So a couple seconds of fighting. Exalted Demonettes and the Seekers able to mow through those Marauders, and they should make pretty quick work of the other Marauder unit. And the Seekers do really good damage on impact against the Demon Spew here. But unfortunately, some Toads are coming in, and Toads do magic damage, so they will surpass the resistances of my Slaaneshi units. But Kari is here to settle the score, so just trying to pull a Nurgle apart once again, you know, fighting wherever the Mortis Engine isn't. Because, you know, one-on-one, these Slaaneshi units are going to be a little bit better, typically speaking, in isolated fights. But yeah, if you fight Nurgle in their big blob. Big on some porky pig there for a second. If I'd have been the blob, you're going to have trouble. Exalted Demonettes moving in. Going to keep trying to buzzsaw through. Still can't quite get the capture weight here. A little bit of a bummer. But now we have the ninja attempt, right? So we move all our horsemen onto the objective. We do have the devoted Marauders as well as the Chaos Warriors moving in, and another unit of Exalted Demonettes. We finally have found an opening in the armor of Nurgle. It's been hard. Slaanesh certainly good at finding those type of things, but we do get the capture weight here, and Kari's going to be coming in, and Big Daddy Festus is a little bit unsupported because much of the big mass and high value was sent up here. We got the Plague Toads, we got the Beast of Nurgle, another unit of Toads coming out, and, you know, my gamble on that back objective isn't necessarily going to pay off, but here in the middle, it's looking pretty good, and Kari going to be going after Festus, and Festus is a character that's pretty goonable for sure. He's not the most survivable character in the world. I mean, he certainly has self-healing and whatnot, but we get the big terror route. All those units are terror routed, and Kari should be healing, right, when routing units are nearby. It's kind of weird how that effect works, but Chaos Warriors able to grind, Horsemen chasing things off, and now we have the Exalted Demonettes, and they will just butcher the Chosen and Nurgle. Pretty much the type of unit they're designed to kill is like elite armored units, and or just any sort of armor, right? And the Chosen get routed in a couple seconds here, and now finally, Kari unleashing all the pent-up rage of Slaanesh, going after Festus, and Festus starting to take some hits, but does get a little bit of healing via Fecundity, but I think Kari should be able to get the kill here. We'll have to see. Stream of Corruption going down, not a bad cast, does kind of tickle the back of those Exalted Demonettes, but it looks like they were able to get out of range here. Horsemen moving up, and these Exalted Demonettes, despite fighting an entire Nurgle army, still trading pretty well. Let's look at the value. 135 kills, and their value on these units is going to be sitting at 1,000, which is really good. They cost 1,250, so the fact that they're fighting such an uphill fight, I think, speaks volumes as to how good of a unit they are. So Kari down here, beating up Festus. He is shaken. A couple horsemen thinking about charging in, but saw that those were Forsaken, and instead opt to fight the Toads, which is going to be a much better fight. Calling in some Furies as well. Furies are good against Forsaken, good against, you know, any sort of demonic armored units as well. And the Seekers are basically a hard counter against Toads. They do magic damage. Toads are very dependent on their bonus versus infantry, so you can see that's going to be a pretty good fight, as these Toads fighting two beat up horseman units are going to go down. And to the back, the Hunter of Souls. And Kari getting in there, giving the business to Festus. He is sitting at 1,800. And as far as the points go, we're not behind by that much. We do have the double cap, and without, you know, Nurgle's leadership, if you lose your big healing character, you're going to be in a bit of a precarious situation, as Kari is just going to be an absolute raid boss to deal with after this. We'll have to see, and Exalted Demonettes and Basic Demonettes even did get buffed in the recent patch, are quite good against much of the Nurgle units, right? Nurgle Warriors will not trade well into them. Plague Bearers is a bit of an even fight. I would say Plague Bearers are probably favored versus Demonettes. Demonettes have the speed, but Plague Bearers just hit way harder in sustained combat. Now Kari's going to be claiming a skull for Slaanesh, I suppose, as Festus the Leech Lord, there he goes. The big chungus is falling, his triple chin jiggling as he falls down. So KARI going to be sweeping up and around using that 100 speed, although poison down to 85, a little bit disappointing. But the poison will be off in a couple seconds, and KARI will get the wheels back. Here are the Demonettes still fighting, and Seekers as well, and we're just going to be calling in whatever we can. Now Nurgle is kind of all over the place, right? You see their units all over the battlefield, and this is where Slaanesh really, of all the Chaos factions, I mean, Khorne definitely really shines in Chaos. Nurgle likes a little bit more uniformity, right? Like moving forward, a little bit of army structure to fight. Whereas like Slaanesh and Khorne really like the Chaos, like the anarchy, fast moving, bouncing between objectives. Tzeentch is kind of in the middle. I would say Tzeentch is more of a formation-based faction. Like they like to have their shooting and their warriors, and aren't as good at like swarming across the battlefield, considering their mobility as like screamers who don't really have good capture weight and those sort of things. So up on the high ground, we do see some units coming in, Marauders. I do have my Horsemen there, and we do use Narcissism, so this is the Slaanesh army ability, which is going to be locking those Marauders in place for a fair amount of time, about 10 seconds, and a lot of times players forget to reactivate those units when they get locked down like that, so this gives us an opportunity to grab the objective up here with some Seekers, and on the low ground, it's going okay. We got Chaos Warriors, we have Exalted Demonettes. Here we have some Demonettes battling, and KARI's going to be coming in, getting some fat terror routes on those Marauders, and these other Marauders won't last terribly long against the vengeance of Slaanesh's Chosen. And the grind continues, ladies and gentlemen. Up here, we do send in some Furies. They are sacrificed, so I just kind of wanted to keep those Marauders from getting to the point. Seekers are just such an awesome unit. That was kind of always the discussion a lot of Slaanesh players had, was like, oh, what's going to be the the next staple unit you see when the Hellstriders get brought to a balanced state. And I do feel like Seekers are kind of is the answer to that. Seekers are just great. I mean, they're appropriately priced. They're 1,000 gold. They're not cheap, and they're very squishy if you leave them in combat, but they're super rewarding to play and can really take out a number of threats, including enemy cavalry, infantry, and here they're just going to be dominating these Toads. So you'll see the Toads are going to get taken down super quickly. They often rely on that physical resist in combat, and the Seekers don't care for that. So Lash of Slaanesh going down as we get more Demonettes up here, popping the Sweet Sorrow. Nurgle does start to take the middle objective back. They have a Beast of Nurgle, they have some Forsaken, some Toads. Toads are very good against the infantry, like if they're able to get on my Slaaneshi troopers. Toads basically counter like all of them, right? Like Demonettes don't want to be fighting Toads, Warriors don't want to be fighting Toads. But you can usually stop them with your cavalry, or at least have something to do with it, right? So Seeker is able to force back these Toads, and it looks like another one is summoned in there. And KARI's going to be moving in with the dreaded Karate Chop of Slaanesh. These units pretty close to crumbling, sitting at 17 leadership. And a lot of the demon units, if I'm not mistaken, did get their leadership buffed in the recent patch to kind of make them a little bit better. And, I've been having a good time with the demon units. I do feel like they're good in a number of matchups. Some more Seekers on their way in could send them into the blob fight in the middle. But at this point, it's going to be incredibly tough for Nurgle to get these objectives back as the Plague Toads here are pinned in, and KARI just feasting with the Wit Stealer's Sword. Going to be a 1,000 weapon strength, and Nurgle and Subutai going to call GG. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. It was a really fun matchup. I think that one's like cat and mouse. It's great, but we had to work pretty hard for that. Certainly was sweating some serious bullets with the micro, trying to find these little openings in the defenses of Nurgle. It's tough. And I think it's a really fun, exciting matchup. And it's fast-paced. As fast-paced as Nurgle will allow it to be, I suppose. But yeah, and KARI was great. 3,500 value, really good assassin-type character. I thought about going with the Exalted Keeper of Secrets instead of KARI, but I think the 100 speed does make a difference, and KARI is way better at killing characters and whatnot. Whereas the other character has anti-large, which would be a better tech against like Toads, but even still, I really do like KARI here. I think it's quite good. Horsemen are great as always. They pretty much accrue their value. Some of them did, some didn't. Seekers, were big performers. The rest of the units, Exalted Demonettes. Oh my God, 3,100 value. They are so good in this matchup, and they're good in a number of matchups. So when you're not worrying about like shock cavalry and missile fire, man, Exalted Demonettes can be so tough. 3,100 value is no joke. So GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Subutai mentioned after the game he thought I was going to come in with Slaanesh Chosen, but yeah, certainly guessed wrong on that one, and those Chosen did have to pay the price. GG, well played. See you guys next time, and that's going to be it for today.